this is one of my favorite wrestling people to talk to. Willow Nightingale is here. This interview for Blavity. Super excited. This is a very interesting time, I would say, like in AEW and women's wrestling. I know the last time we chatted, you were in a completely different space. You're correct. I think it was right before you won the TBS title.
Ooh,
Uh,
that sounds about right.
yeah, I think it was right before Dynasty. And so we're well over a year after that. And so I think the first thing coming off of last week, I think there's a lot of rumors that there may be a women's blood and guts. You've been a part of a lot of very gory
Ooh.
situations, like, for the women's division, a lot of fights, a lot of street fights, a lot of, blood feuds. Obviously, nothing's etched in stone yet, but what would it mean to be a part of Blood and Guts, or just having it for that milestone for the AEW Women's Division in general?
I mean, like you said, obviously we don't really know what's ahead. Um, but if something like that were to happen, I think it would be, very justified for the women's division to kind of show out in that way. I feel like between like the lights out matches that were happening earlier on in AEW, like the Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa one comes to mind, and then those street fights that really kind of helped give the women's division like this identity of like, yes, we are very beautiful and gracious in the ring. But I think the start of it with like Bunny and Penelope and Anna and Tanara really showed like the grit that we have too. And to see how the division has evolved from like those early days that holds on to all of that like wonderful, like aesthetically pleasing women's wrestler, but still like kick ass, bloody, gory, mix of everything into like I think we're really trying to like push and show that I feel like a lot of times people will say our women's division is just as good as our men's division, and I feel it should kind of be, yeah, standard everywhere, all over the place. But I feel like we have our own unique identity, and I really do think like a blood and guts type match is a part of that. I think we love bearing that. I think we love the viscerality of that. Um, so it's about time if something like that does happen.
No, I completely agree. I think that that's become such a staple, and that really makes like the AEW Women's Division stand out as far as like the willingness to push boundaries. Which brings me to my next question: Anarchy in the Arena. You were able to push boundaries in that regard, but I mean, even like that, rewinding a little bit, like the lead up to that, like you were uniquely placed like in the basically in the men's world title picture, like and doing a lot of really big stuff, breaking a lot of boundaries with intergender wrestling, mixed tag wrestling. I know like intergender wrestling is something that you had been doing like on the indies and in other places, but the significance of bringing that on screen to AEW, especially after it had been shied away from for a very long time, and then being able to break that boundary in Anarchy in the Arena. And maybe that's a separate question. So like let's start with like the like those mixed tags and like being involved in like the main, the biggest storyline in the company, and really representing like Team AEW as you did.
Yeah, I think it's very important to kind of be grateful for the people who really pushed in mixed tags before I was even put in that position. Kris Statlander isn't necessarily someone that I see eye to eye with these days, but I can't overlook the fact that she was really kind of doing, I think, the most regularly mixed tag stuff with best friends. I know, obviously, when we talk about the Jericho Cruise, the first intergender match that we saw was, Kenny and Riho, and Penelope and Kip. And I think without all those things happening, that kind of like set the stage for something bigger to happen, like Anarchy in the Arena. And I'm appreciative of the alliances that I have made, whether that be Adam Copeland, Orange Cassidy, the rest of my conglomeration guys, Mark Briscoe. Um, I could name all of them. But I found that a lot of times, like in the mixed tags, it is very like, all right, the guys are going to interact with the guys, and the girls interact with the girls. And the first time I felt like I really kind of got to mix it up was when I tagged with Swerve against Marina and Mox, to the point that they both like put hands on us as well, which I think is what kind of was like the thing that really shattered down that barrier, like made the little crack to have it open up, for Anarchy in the Arena, which I think a lot of people were also thinking like would be like, oh, it would be Willow and Marina and the rest of the match. Uh, and no, Marina is tough and badass, as am I. So we very eagerly were like getting our fingers in each other's hair, but in everybody else's hair. And it's something that I wear with pride to be um, one of the people that really helped kind of push the boundaries. Like I said, there's so many people that paved the way for intergender wrestling to happen on television in such a way. I mean, heck, it was on television years and years ago, and for some reason, people were like, "Just kidding, women do not have autonomy and do not have agency to put themselves in matches like this." Um, but I think we're kind of working back towards that again. Even when we talk about like the barriers between divisions, is like the baseline should be that the women's division is as good as the men's division, right? Um, but I think to have our own identity and evolve beyond that, to break down, see more intergender wrestling in the future, could be really cool. I can't say that I know it's going to happen or that it will happen, um, but I personally, having been any part of it, if it does, would be really cool. It would mean a lot.
Definitely. It felt like you and Mox have like legit beef. Like I think you still have to get you got to get a pounce back on him or something. Like like
I hear that. I see Renee in the locker room, and I'm like, "Hey, girl, you're cool, but what's going on? I don't see how it's adding up here."
you owe him one. And that I think that brings me to Anarchy in the Arena. You and Marina were the first women to ever participate in the match, and honestly, what many call the best Anarchy in the Arena. I'm not going to say it's because women are in it, but I'm not going to not say it either. um, that was absolutely, I mean, an incredible time, and you were honestly probably on one of the best babyface units we've ever seen. You, Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Hobbs, Shibata, Samoa Joe, being a part of that team on this iconic, Anarchy in the Arena, bodies playing in the background, everybody's 2000s nostalgia coming back. First Double or Nothing away from Vegas, so many just interesting things happening all it. What was that night like what was that night like, and like now that you're removed from it, what does it mean to you?
I think this, like Anarchy in the Arena, along with like really any big moment in my career, you don't realize the gravity of it until you're on the other side. Um, and even, you know, having our little team meetings and being like, all right, guys, we're gonna pump ourselves up, we're gonna get ready, and looking around the room and seeing like who I was teaming with was mind-boggling. I think I saw on Twitter somebody referred to us as like if AEW had Avengered had assembled Avengers, this is the team that they would have picked, and I was like, that's crazy. Um, and I think to look around at people like that, Joe, Kenny, really everyone on the team, when you look around and you think about how these are people that you've admired for years, and then you're like, oh, but I'm not just looking up to them. Like, I am their peer. I am just as deserving of being here as they are. Um, but I still do obviously know that they're so much more experienced than I and have so much more knowledge to hand down to me. So really, in those weeks when I was working with the guys, I was just trying to absorb as much as possible. Whether that just be the way that they command themselves, the way that they speak to other people, um, the way that they view and present themselves, I felt like was a very important thing that I tried to pick up on, because in women's wrestling now it's changing a little bit where you will see women having much longer careers. Um, but when you're looking at veterans of wrestling for like 20 plus years, you don't come across that in other women very often. So you're not seeing it in the locker room, like how somebody with that much experience under their belt presents and carries themselves. Um, so, of course, all the in ring stuff, I wanted to take away from that and I wanted to enjoy that. Um, but that, seeing the calm or even the chaos that they bring before they go out to the ring, was kind of what I was tuning into the most. Um, and I don't know that I answered your question directly, but I think I was a little bit of like all over giving
No,
you
no, no, it makes
tidbits.
it makes perfect sense. Also, a few weeks ago, you were in the women's casino gauntlet,
Mm-hmm.
and you did the Chappell Roan gear, which everybody had been asking for. I know you talked a little bit, you had talked, I think you put it on like Instagram or Twitter about how stressed you had been, like trying to get it done on time. But like, so like, what's that process like of like I think fans put a lot of stuff on the wrestlers all every day, like you need to do this, you need to do this. But like having like the discernment, okay, like this is something that maybe can be doable. This is something I actually want to do. Let's actually do it. What does that look like, coming together, and like were you happy with how it turned out? I mean, everybody else thought it was a hit, but were you happy with how it turned out or what?
Ultimately, yes, I was very happy with how it turned out. I put like actual belt buckles on it,
Mhm.
which hardware was not something that I've ever worked with before in like that capacity. So that was a bit challenging and also may not be the most practical thing for very highly physical contact professional wrestling. Um, so I do think, unless there was like a special occasion again where that gear kind of felt appropriate, I don't know that I will be getting, another wear, but I'm so happy with what it was for what it was. Months ago, when I saw Chappell wear that to the Grammys, I was like, oh, that looks one, comfortable. Like it looks like it would be good wrestling gear. And two, All In is in Texas this year. So if I end up doing something on the show, I really do want that to be like the direction I go. And fans did also think so. So I think it was like a 50-50. Like the idea was in my head. I had actually one of my coworkers had also suggested it to me, like, hey, you should do this. And then all the fans. So everything together was like, oh no, it's meant to be. You have to do this. And the other thing is the casino gauntlet. You never know if your number's gonna get called. You don't know 100% that you're gonna be in the match. So the casino gauntlet gets announced and I'm like, I guess there's a chance I could be in there. I should buy fabric and try to start making here maybe. So it was not even the kind of thing that I really put a lot of planning into to be like, okay, a month in advance, I'm going to do a little sewing here. It was really like the last 2 weeks before the show, I was like, wait for all the supplies to get here. And once they're finally here, go, go, go. And then that last week, we're on the road in Texas the whole time. So it was going down in the hotel room.
Going back to Texas, obviously huge moment for AEW. And so you were in a stadium show in Texas, and you began the year in a stadium show wrestling in the Tokyo Dome, which was absolutely just incredible to witness, just women in the Tokyo Dome. And so, you recently re-signed to AEW, and just a few years ago, you were on Dark, and then, get that All Elite graphic in front of the crowd. So much has happened in such a short amount of time. What is it like to kind of be in the driver's seat a little bit more with your career, of just you're choosing where you want to go, you're making your dreams happen, you're checking things off your bucket list. You've wrestled at 2 stadiums this year, so many historic venues, historic opponents. I mean, what is that shift been, or has there been a shift of how you approach wrestling, as a star? What is that whirlwind timeline been like for you?
It's been wacky. I think one of the hardest things for me personally to deal with is as a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
You go to a show, you enjoy the experience, like the live atmosphere, the energy. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I experienced that at concerts. The next day, you have a little bit of a crash.
Yes.
Where you kind of are like, oh man, that was so great. That was amazing. And now I have to go back to my real life. And when I was on the indies, for me, that meant going to a tattoo shop and cleaning toilets the day after doing a show or whatever. That was the crash for me. I will say that has minimized a little bit in the day to day. It's not so much, I mean, I did feel it a little bit after All In, I will say that. I literally cried the moment the bell rang and the match was over, just because it was a flurry of emotions. But I think holding it together all day, realizing how big the moment was, not just for me, myself, but our whole division, to have a match like that spotlights all of us and gives us the time, and it's on the main card, and just being there at the start of that match and watching it all unfold in front of me, and the whole day that I had, and just the moment it was done, I was like, okay, release everything. That was I think the biggest oh, okay, we're going up the roller coaster and now here's the emotional explosion. So I had a moment like that, but I think of the day to day, I have settled into me being this is my life. It's not just a dream, it's my reality, and I'm so grateful for that. It is probably much better for my mental health because the up and down crash was a lot to deal with. But now I kind of just look at it as trying to maintain a steady incline, which can sometimes be hard because there's a whole lot of other badass, tough women on the roster who want to be in the spot that I'm in, let alone the spot ahead of me, because it took me how many ever years in AEW to get to where I am right now, and I still want to get ahead, but there are people who are just getting here and say, no, Willow, I want to be where you are, and I'm like, ah! So there's a very welcome fight, right? Because I love the women's division as it is right now. I think we've got a lot of new faces that have come in and are hungry and hardworking, and I welcome it because it keeps me sharp. And how am I supposed to get ahead if the people around me aren't pushing me to be my best self, I guess, is the best way to put it. So yeah, I want to continue that climb. I'm not satisfied. We talk about doing stadiums. I think it's exciting. I love it. There's a lot of emotions around it. But it would be even cooler than wrestling at a stadium, having a title match at a stadium or main eventing a stadium. And as far as I know, I haven't done that yet. So there's still work to do.
Circling back to the first stadium, so Tokyo Dome. Obviously, you're a huge fan of Japanese wrestling. And that was a really special moment. I think, we all saw the picture of you, Mercedes, and Athena hugging afterwards. I think a lot of people probably don't know the significance of Japanese women's wrestling, but Black women, the history, and Japanese wrestling, going back to so many different people, Sandy Parker, Aja Kong, Amazing Kong, so many different people. The emotions of being able to like wrestle in the I it's still hard for me to like even wrap my head around like that happened. Like, I mean, getting to Japan, you've wrestled in Japan before, but obviously this was different. Like, what made this trip so different for you when you headed over there?
Um, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it on the head, right? Like, there's a lot about 90s Joshi that really inspired me. Aja Kong being a big one in terms of like being a biracial person who doesn't necessarily fit like the conventional body type of what a wrestler is assumed to look like, and being like the toughest, most badass person imaginable, honestly. Um, and so to think about someone like her breaking down barriers and myself, Athena, and Mercedes, which I'm not somebody who really likes to talk about my relationships with people outside of the ring. Obviously, like Athena and Mercedes are both amazing wrestlers. I think they have bad attitudes, but ultimately I respect what they do. I respect who they are, what they've had to go through to get where they are in wrestling. Hell, I'll say this. Even a big part of the reason I was crying at All In is because if I wasn't the person who won it, Athena winning is something that is very moving to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and to share a moment like being at the Tokyo Dome, which, for the past few decades hasn't really had many women perform there at all. I know recently, the past few years, we've had the IWGP Women's Championship kind of in play when Wrestle Kingdom comes around. I know they've had like Stardom spotlight matches in the more recent years, but women being a part of it recently has been so scarce. Um, and to have Black women come over and be a part of what I think is one of the most captivating wrestling cultures that exists,
Absolutely.
um, despite racism here, there, everywhere in the world, um, still being able to be a part of that. I'm a little at loss for words still because life moves so fast and I don't really get to always sink into things as much as I try. Um, but it was just cool. It was another one of those moments where I didn't like get the full scope of it until it was done when I was standing there with Athena and Mercedes. And it's like, okay, this is exciting for me because of my own fandom. And then hugging and being together, realizing the scope of what it means for so many more people outside of myself and how much bigger it is than just me is like a lot. It's so cool. It's so awesome. And I'm happy that I can be that person and wear it proudly. And I hope that I make other people proud. But I don't know. A, it's a drug habit that I don't want to quit. If the adrenaline of wrestling you know, is the high that I'm chasing, those are the two, and if you include Anarchy Arena, three like really high moments for me this year. And that is so much more than anyone can say for their whole career, and I've had that over the course of 2025 alone. Oh, it's still early in the morning too, so my coffee's kicking in as we're having this
No,
conversation. But like,
no, it's totally fine.
lyric, no lyric, you're taking me to a great place this morning. My
No,
brain's
it
still
really,
catching up, but I'm like, oh.
it literally like I feel like as wrestling fans we get really jaded. I think especially like there's a lot of bad things of always to talk about, right? But like that was one of those moments to where I was like, I love this. Like, like
Yeah.
I love this. I want to do this like forever. Like this is a like, like just sitting at home crying, like, oh gosh, like this is really awesome. And it's like, it's what? 2, 3 a.m. here. And it's just like, you know what? I'm sleep deprived, but I can do this all day. Like this is
That's another thing to point out. We're jet lagged when we're over there, but
yeah,
all three of us, it mattered so much to us.
absolutely.
And we could see and recognize it in each other when we were there. And so I thank you for tuning in at the wee hours of the morning to support
Of
us
course.
and like always supporting us. Also, while we're on it and talking about Black women kicking ass and being awesome, congratulations to you, Lyric,
Thank you.
because I didn't until maybe the start of the G1 when you did that interview with Tanahashi. I didn't realize you were working with Sports Illustrated, which is cool as hell, and
Yeah.
getting to interview the Ace is sick as hell, and
Highlighted my life.
I admire what you do, right?
Thank you.
Like today, I'm doing media for AEW, which I love doing. I love my company, and I love chatting to people about the thing that I love. But anytime I get to sit down with you and everything that you represent, it kind of feels like we instantly, more than wrestling, have something to bond over, and
Absolutely.
it's a beautiful part of my day.
Thank you. Well, that means a lot. I don't want to cry now, so thank you. But I that means a lot. You were one of the first people, like I think, like I ever talked to in wrestling, like when I first got started, and so like that's so. It's just so interesting to see like both of like I don't want to say like I have a like career like yours or anything, but it's been interesting like just to see like the elevation, like like I've been following you since you like really got signed, and like everybody's moving on up, so
Hell
that's
yeah,
been
and I love to see it.
absolutely. So I hate to be a downer, but moving on to another topic, Kris Statlander.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
um, so what I find so interesting is about you two is that most of like the biggest women's feuds in AEW have generally centered around a title. Um, but you two have continued to captivate the audience with no title involved. A lot of times, of genuinely being yourselves, people are invested in your friendship, your team, you being enemies, frenemies. Every time, like you come out one after the other. In the women's casino gauntlet, like this entire this entire journey that you all have been on together, like even dating back to like to your indies, like are you ever surprised by how much people are into it? In more ways than one. Like I saw the video you saying about like the Tumblr girlies, um, which is also valid. Like they're into it as well. Everybody's into it. Are you ever shocked by like how much people care about you two?
Yes, I am grateful, but I think, you know, in professional wrestling, you said it, a lot of times feuds are based around championships. Um, and I would say the average person watching the show has goals, of course. They have things that they would like to accomplish, whatever prize it is in their life that they're chasing. But professional wrestling, a championship belt, is not something that's necessarily as relatable to the audience as friendship is,
Mhm.
which I think is really um, a reason people have been able to sink their teeth into it. Um, Especially because it is something that is so genuine and authentic and real, and it's not like just something that we threw together for television. There is true history there. Stat and I are from the same part of New York, Long Island. We did start around the same time. We both came up through the Indies together. I got to watch her shine in AW before I got there, and then when I got there, she was cheering on for me. And we had that friendship in the locker room before it was even presented on television. And when it finally was, I'll say that was probably the most fun I was having in wrestling at that time, up to that point when I was working with her on TV. So um, it makes sense that something so organic and fun for us would also be received well by people. Um, and just as much as people understand friendship, they understand betrayal, they understand jealousy, they understand that um, sometimes it can be hard to pick a side because things aren't black and white. you know, both people can have truth and, be right in their argument. It really just boils down to perspective. And I think that is what is the most captivating and interesting part about what is going on with Stat and I is that, obviously I understand my perspective. I'm sitting in this body. I feel it. I live it every day. Um, but I can still look at her and one, appreciate what an amazing wrestler she is and the hard work that she's put in everything and kind of feel for her, you know, I can kind of understand why she betrayed me, but it doesn't take away, the knife that she stabbed me with. And I think that's what people relate to. Life's not black and white. There it is.
Very true. And also, recently, an interview last week in Chicago, Tony Khan talked about that women's tag belts exist. They have not been introduced yet. But also, as a big fan of Japanese wrestling, like I think you've seen the potential of what women's tag team wrestling can be, like of
Mhm.
what amazing main event level women's tag wrestling is capable of. And so, when this eventually happens in AEW, what would you like to see from women's tag team wrestling? Like, because I feel like it's still a very underexplored concept in the United States.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been, I think, utilized yet to its full potential. It's still fairly new as a concept, at least like in the modern era. So, what would your vision be for women's tag team wrestling?
Um, I I think it is fair, a fair observation to note that there is a limited amount of television time for everyone on the roster.
Mhm.
But usually we being the women's division, we get one match on Dynamite. Collision, we get a little bit more wiggle room. You're more likely to see two, three matches. I will say this year I've probably seen more women main events than I have my whole career at
For
AEW
sure.
so far. So I do think we're making progress and moving forward and we're getting more time. But TV time is so precious to everyone. And our locker room is smaller than the men's locker room. So to make the argument that we want more time can be tough. But if you've watched the trend of television recently, we've been making up a lot of time with tags, and we've been doing these all-star tags, and I think I think if it's there, if you're already putting these types of matches out, reward us. Give us something to fight for, aside from just, with our words saying, we're the best, have like that prize to fight for, I think would be really cool. Um, in my, when Stat and I were teaming, I remember there was one time Tony had asked us, he was like, yeah, you guys should walk down to the ring like the Road Warriors. Which I will say, I love nerding out with Tony Khan about wrestling right before I go to the ring. Because, the whole day you're like, oh my God, I'm stressed out. How does my gear look? How does my body feel? Like, did I stretch? Did I warm up? And like the 20 seconds before I go out, if I'm the most stressed out or whatever, he'll just be like, yeah, let's go. And then he'll just say some wrestling thing. And I'm like, and it puts my head in a weird place. But I love it. So that was one time we nerded out. He was like, yeah, I want you guys to go down to the ring. Like, you're big, bad, tough. You're cool. Like the Road Warriors. Go out there and do it. Let's go. And that was like, it put it in my head. I was like, oh my God, if that's how you would view Stat and I, like, the peak would be to like do tag league over at Stardom. Like, I think that would be so cool. Um, and also, I'm bringing it up so whoever is following me and watching me probably already knows about Stardom and Joshi because I talk about it all the time. But go and watch those things.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to bring it here. I'd love to have something like that. I'd love to make time for it, um, and present it in such a way where it can really not just be like an attraction, but like the attraction. I think we have the chemistry within the locker room between like teams and alliances to make it happen, and make it exciting. Also, AEW is built on tag team wrestling. You know, our founders are the Young Bucks, and I think that is really some of our best matches. If you look through our history, have been tag matches. Let's get some girl. So I've been saying girl a lot, which is I don't like to do because I think it's infantilizing. My apologies. Women's, let's get some women's tag matches up there as like the best matches you've ever seen. Because I do think we have the depth in the locker room to pull it off.
Absolutely. Did you watch Queen of Villains?
No.
You should
Please
watch it.
enlighten me.
Okay, so
Okay.
Oh my gosh, you don't know. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Queen of Villains is a Netflix series. It's about 80s all Japan.
Oh,
And it's about the history of Dump Matsumoto and the Crush Gals. And it kicks off like the first episode is about like the rise and fall of Beauty Pair, which is when I say they literally resurrect AJW from the dead, like the sets are actually insane. They filmed some of it in Corkin. It's absolutely it's like a 6-episode limited series. You can listen to it in English because I think like some of the voices are like actual wrestlers. So I think like Alexa Bliss and Nikki Bella. But I listened to it in Japanese and just did like the subtitles because I feel like it's a much more authentic experience.
you know what?
So you
I
gotta watch
actually
it.
am familiar with it. The only reason I didn't watch it is for that very reason. I'm a very like ADHD all over the place kind of person. And sometimes it's hard for me to sit and focus on things. Like I really have to allot time to watch it. So it's not like the kind of thing I could have put on in a hotel and unpacked my bags and done
Oh
this
no,
and that because I did want to watch it like with subtitles. And it is I'm glad you reminded me because it's been on my list and it keeps getting pushed back for that reason. And now I've been reminded and reinvigorated and I will put it back at the top of the to do.
fantastic, literally, like I can't say enough good things about it. But yeah, this is my final question. I saw on your Instagram story you have beef with Labubus.
Ah!
And listen, I do too. I just would like to just give you a chance to just state your case as well. That's all.
I think they are so darn cute. I actually love them so much, but I feel like it's great to have one, and you can, I said it doesn't feed my individuality complex because I always grew up a weirdo, and so I always felt like, oh, if you're gonna think I'm weird, I'm gonna relish in it, right? I'm gonna do it, and so I do have an individuality complex. You know, take that however you want. Um, so you can customize it. I get that. You can express yourself through it. But I just feel like if you reach the point where like every single person has it, really is that like a choice that you made yourself to get it? Or is it like you were influenced by other people? Because it is also kind of weird and creepy looking,
It is.
which is why I think they're cute. But like there's a lot of people who's like, oh, I wouldn't expect you to have liked this weird creature. But if I did have one, I would probably go to one of those tattooing events where they get their like faces tattooed. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'd probably like give it little paint on its nails or something. Enjoy the Labubus, people. I'm not anti Labubu. I just don't think it is right for me. I
That's
see
okay.
them everywhere. I'd rather get something that I feel like is unique. And as I travel the world constantly now, I really do think it's so cool to be like, oh, these pants, I got these pants in England. This jewelry, I got it in Mexico City. I got this in Tokyo, and be annoying and pretentious in a different way.
Absolutely. Think that as well. It's okay. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of travel.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. This was amazing. Um, and yeah, good best of luck. I know that you are going to kill it. Whatever comes next for the division, whether it's blood and guts, women's tag belts, getting your TBS title back, whatever it is, you're going to kill it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lyric. You keep killing it too. And everyone, keep smiling.